Let's dive into Troll, Netflix's giant monster spectacle from 2022 that stomps through the mountains of Norway and straight into the heart of classic creature feature cinema.
Papa?
Start up.
This isn't just another action flick. It's a story where folklore collides with modern firepower, where family wounds resurface, and where nature itself rises up against human arrogance. As always, fair warning, I'll be covering all the major plot points and giving my own thoughts along the way, so yes, spoilers are ahead. Throughout this video, we're going to be discussing what happens in it, and I'm kicking things off with a punchy three-word recap. Roar, remember, and respect. I'll also share themes that the movie tackles like nature versus progress, folklore as memory and fear of the unknown. Of course, I'll also drop some slick flick facts and hidden details along the way, plus my final verdict to help you decide if this movie is a must-watch or a pass. Let's begin. From the start, Troll sets expectations high. The thumbnail shows us a rocky mountain-like monster. And while the film doesn't exactly shift the landscape of cinema, it does bring back something we haven't seen much of in years, a good old-fashioned monster movie. In an age obsessed with serial killers and psychological thrillers, watching a giant beast awaken feels like a refreshing blast from the past. The setup is familiar but effective. Something terrifying is stirring in the mountains. At the same time, we cut to an elderly couple who notice their dog barking wildly at something in the distance. They suddenly hear a low, thunderous rumble, the sound of the creature drawing closer. Within seconds, the ground shakes so violently that their entire house begins to tremble apart. When they finally step back outside, the sight is devastating. Half of their house has been completely destroyed. And when the government realizes they're out of their depth, they send helicopters to snatch up an expert. Enter Nora, a paleobiologist, flown in under armed guard and dropped straight into a meeting with the Prime Minister. She's tasked with explaining the impossible in words small enough for the suits to understand. But of course, her warnings are brushed aside. Because in blockbuster logic, when in doubt, the military fires first and asks questions later. Missiles go boom and logic goes out the window. Flick fact number 1 is that the film was shot on location across Norway's most dramatic landscapes, with a blend of practical effects and CGI to keep the troll feeling grounded and heavy. Flick fact number 2 is that the troll's design was inspired by traditional Norwegian wood carvings and the artist Theodor Kittelsen's folk illustrations. At its core, the movie follows Nora's journey. She's brilliant, skeptical, and completely unprepared for what's coming. To complicate things, the government also drags in her estranged father, Tobias, a wild-eyed folklorist who spent his life insisting that trolls were real. He was dismissed, mocked, and silenced for getting too close to the truth. Now, as mountains literally walk before their eyes, it turns out the crazy old man might have been right all along. Nora and Tobias's fractured relationship brings some emotional grounding to the chaos. Once upon a time, they were inseparable, father and daughter who shared stories and secrets. But while Nora grew up and pursued science, Tobias never let go of his belief in trolls. His mantra, "Don't look with your eyes, look with your heart," lingers as one of the film's moral threads. It's sentimental, sure, but in this kind of movie, it works. Joining them is Andreas, Nora's quirky assistant, who lightens the tone with his offbeat humor. He rambles about writing a book where a monk rips off his head and throws it at enemies, using his fingers as darts. Honestly, I'd watch that movie too, but his awkward charm keeps the film from getting too heavy, and he's one of the standout supporting characters. As for the mythology, the movie gives us glimpses of something fascinating. Tobias explains that trolls are not just beasts, they're living rock, ancient creatures as old as the mountains themselves. Fairy tales, he says, weren't just bedtime stories. They were cover-ups designed to turn truth into myth. That's a brilliant idea, but sadly the film only scratches the surface. tossing it aside in favor of explosions and military mayhem. Visually, though, the troll itself is impressive. Towering, terrifying, and strangely human, the design feels like a blend of myth and nature. At times, it even resembles a misunderstood giant rather than a monster. And of course, we get the familiar trope. Maybe the creature isn't the real villain. Maybe it's humanity's fear, greed, and aggression. By the time the military unloads everything they've got, it's clear the troll isn't out to destroy the world. It's out to exist in a world that has forgotten it. Still, Troll doesn't shy away from leaning into cliché. Helicopters swarming, politicians panicking, Wilhelm screams echoing in battle. It's a B-movie dressed up with Netflix money. You've seen shades of this in Godzilla, King Kong, and a dozen others. But that's also the charm. The film knows exactly what it is: big, dumb fun. When the troll arrives, the military goes all in. Tanks fire, helicopters roar, bullets fly, but nothing seems to work. The creature shrugs off every attack like it's nothing. It heals fast, it smells blood, and it's unstoppable. In the chaos, one soldier falls, and that's when Tobias steps forward. Arms wide, he tries to calm the monster down. For a heartbeat, it works. But then another vehicle charges in and opens fire, breaking the fragile moment. The troll lashes out, crushing them with one brutal strike. Tobias is caught in the blast of its tail, thrown violently to the ground. He reaches for Nora, ready to speak his final words, but dies before he can. That night, grief-stricken, Nora dives into her father's journal, desperate for answers. Page after page, she pieces together his notes until one clue stands out. Trolls despise church bells. With nothing left to lose, she takes the idea to the officials. The Minister of Defense laughs it off, but the Prime Minister gives her the green light. Soon, helicopters sweep in, dangling giant bells through the air. At first, the plan works. The troll weakens, the monster stumbles, but then it adapts. In a flash of rage, it tears through the choppers, ripping apart the sky. The plan fails, and the destruction grows. Yet even in his fury, the troll saves a child, proving he's more than just a beast. Across the world, news channels explode with coverage. The Prime Minister addresses the nation, declaring a state of emergency and ordering Oslo to evacuate. Streets flood with terrified citizens. Nora is cast out of the mission, branded a failure, while Andreas resigns in protest, knowing Oslo itself is about to be bombed. Together, the two flee with the crowd, but Nora clings to her father's journal. One word repeats over and over: Sinding. Andreas reveals it's the name of a royal connected to the Oslo palace. Realizing it's her only lead, Nora orders they turn back. At the palace, they meet Rikard Sinding, who finally reveals the truth. Trolls were real. Tobias had been right all along. To protect the secret, Sinding himself had Tobias locked away, silenced before he could expose them. Beneath the palace, Nora and Andreas are led into a hidden chamber, and what they find is horrifying. The skeletal remains of an entire troll family, massacred centuries ago when Christians wiped them out. The palace itself was built over the cave of the Troll King, the very creature now ravaging Norway. He isn't just wandering, he's trying to come home. Family is everything to trolls, and this king is returning to the bones of his children. Nora and Andreas are shaken, but her UV light reveals something new. The troll bones sizzle under its beam. Sunlight is their weakness. Suddenly, she has a plan. With Sinding's help, they take the Queen's pickup truck and rally Captain Chris to set the trap. At the same time, Andreas calls on Sigrid, who hacks into the military system and stops Oslo's bombing run at the last second. With the city saved, the real fight begins. Driving into the night, Nora and Andreas reveal the skull of a troll child, luring the giant straight into their trap.
Hey, ho.
Let's go.
He smashes it in grief, realizing his family is gone forever. His sorrow twists into rage and he charges. Military vehicles close in, flooding him with blinding UV lights. The plan works. The troll screams, burning alive as his stone skin cracks. For a moment, it seems like victory, but Nora hesitates. She sees his pain, his loss, his humanity. With tears in her eyes, she shuts off the lights and begs him to run to the mountains. It's too late. Dawn breaks and sunlight cuts through the mist. The Troll King lets out one final roar before crumbling to stone. Nora reaches out, placing a hand on his face, as if saying goodbye to her father all over again. The nation rejoices. The Prime Minister arrives speechless, and Nora names the site Tobias Boulder in her father's honor. By the climax, we're given the predictable emotional beats, the misunderstood creature, the sacrifice, the hint at a larger world. And just when the dust settles, we're teased with the possibility of more trolls lurking in the shadows. A setup for a sequel that is already made. And while it ends in chaos and shattered mountains, Troll leaves behind more than just a wake of fear. Stepping back from the chaos, rampaging mountains and shattering panic, Troll is more than a creature feature. It's a reflection on nature's wrath and the consequences of human hubris. Every step it takes and every wall it smashes is nature's way of reminding us that progress often comes at a cost. The ancient folklore woven into the story isn't there simply for atmosphere either. These legends are cultural memories, passed down for generations as warnings of what happens when we disrespect the natural world. But we forget, and when the past rises up to meet us, we call it a threat. The military's immediate shoot-first approach reflects something all too familiar in our own reality. The tendency to react with force when confronted by something we don't understand. Instead of learning, we destroy. And maybe that's the real tragedy here, that in our rush to protect ourselves, we might lose the chance to understand the very thing that could have taught us the most. So where does that leave us? Troll is a spectacle that blends monster movie thrills with heartfelt myth. It's not just about destruction, it's about legacy, loss, and the price of forgetting where we come from. On the Flick verdict scale, this movie is a must-watch, a surprisingly emotional creature feature that roars with action while carrying the soul of an old Nordic poem. Bottom line, sometimes the legends we dismiss are the ones that matter most. For me, it's the kind of film you watch when you want to switch off your brain, munch some popcorn, and enjoy the ride. Yes, the characters are cookie cutter. Yes, the themes are familiar, but the spectacle is fun, and the pace keeps things moving. If you love monster tales that have heart as well as teeth, Flick Favorites is your front row seat. Comment below, if a real-life troll was discovered, would you protect it or destroy it? And just like that, the mountains fall silent, but the echoes of Troll's roar still linger, a reminder that some legends refuse to stay buried. If you enjoyed this journey through chaos and folklore, smash that like button, share it with fellow movie fans, and subscribe for more epic recaps, because the next legend might be closer than you think.